An Indian-flagged crude oil tanker has been attacked by Houthi militants. According to the US military, the Gabon-owned tanker MV Saibaba sent a distress call to a US warship in the area. US Naval Forces Central Command has said that no injuries have been reported from the strike as of now. Indian media reports indicate that the Indian-flagged vessel was not hit and that the drone strike was a near miss. The US Naval Forces Central Command also responded to distress calls from one other ship under attack. This after a Norwegian-flagged owned and operated oil tanker reported a near miss of a Houthi drone attack. In another similar incident in the southern Red Sea area, 4 drones headed towards a US destroyer were shot down on Saturday. They were reportedly launched from Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen. Butchers in Gaza say that they are now selling undergrown cattle as they struggle to meet the demand of a starving population amid severe food shortage. The World Food Programme says half of Gaza's population is starving and only 10% of the food required has entered Gaza since the October 7th attack. Local butchers say the price of meat has jumped from $4.4 to $7.67 per kilogram. The Gaza Health Ministry says that more than 53,000 have been wounded in the ongoing Israel-Gaza war. WHO has also pointed out growing risk of diseases due to the lack of clean water, food and medical attention. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society has released a video showing medics treating injured Gazans in Gaza's Jabalia, which is also home to the enclave's largest refugee camp. Thick smoke hung over the northern town on Saturday as residents reported persistent aerial bombardment and shelling from Israeli tanks. Israel's chief military spokesperson said on Friday that its forces has achieved almost complete operational control of northern Gaza. They also expressed that preparations were underway to expand the ground offensive to other areas in the Strip, with a focus on the southern part of Gaza. Now, Iran has rejected all US allegations of its involvement in planning attacks on commercial vessels, the attacks that were carried out by Yemen's Houthi rebels in the Red Sea, as per the media reports. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister kept on emphasizing on Houthis' independent actions and capabilities of carrying out the attacks. Iran, which is a staunch supporter of the group, has officially denied supplying arms. The Houthis, who control significant parts of Yemen, have launched over 100 drone and missile attacks on Red Sea merchant vessels. They claim that these actions are in support of Palestinians facing Israeli bombardment in Gaza. In a series of targeted airstrikes, Turkish Air Force has destroyed 29 target locations in northern Iraq and Syria. The targets are reportedly associated with Turkey's outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party, or the PKK. Now, this comes in the aftermath of a tragic event when 12 Turkish soldiers lost their lives in clashes with PKK over the past 2 days in northern Iraq. In response, the Turkish military intensified its operations, neutralizing at least 16 PKK militants on Saturday. The Turkish Defense Ministry announced that the airstrikes were carried out at 10 p.m. local time in northern Iraq and Syria. The targets included bases, shelters, and oil facilities believed to be used by PKK militants. However, specific regions affected have not been disclosed at this time. Boris Nemtsov, a vocal critic of Russia's President Vladimir Putin, has been put forward as the center-right Civic Initiative Party's presidential election candidate. Now, the opposition party has said that Nemtsov plans to register with the Electoral Commission on December 25th. If this happens, it will be the first time a Putin critic is allowed to compete elections against him. This especially after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It was in May that Nemtsov called for electing a new government in Russia to stop the war against Ukraine and build relations with Europe. According to Nemtsov, Putin sees the world from the past and drags Russia into the past. He believes that Moscow is increasingly crawling into medieval feudalism. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that the country's forces shot down 3 Russian Sukhoi 34 fighter jets on the southern front, hailing it a success in the 22-month-old war. However, the Russian military has made no mention of the incident. But Russian bloggers acknowledged the loss. An analyst suggests that US-supplied Patriot missiles had probably been used. Zelensky, in his nightly video address, praised the Odessa region anti-aircraft unit for downing the planes in Kherson region. The region was occupied in the first days of Moscow's February 2022 invasion. German police have heightened security at the landmark Cologne cathedral following indications of an attack planned for New Year's Eve. Now, this comes a week after the country's interior minister warned of the rising threat of Islamist violence. The police said in a statement they would use tracker dogs to check the cathedral after evening mass and then close it off. On Christmas Eve, the police is said to carry out a security check on all visitors and recommended that visitors get to services early. Meanwhile, police in Vienna have also heightened security measures around churches and Christmas markets, deploying both uniformed and civilian-clothed officers. The last group of French troops have withdrawn from Niger, marking an end to more than a decade of French anti-jihadist operations in West Africa's Sahel region. The French exit from Niger leaves hundreds of US military personnel and a number of Italian and German troops remaining in the country. There have been fears that the departure of French troops would weaken the fight against an insurgency not just in Niger, but also in the wider Sahel region. France said that it would pull out its roughly 1,500 soldiers and pilots from Niger after the former French colony's new ruling generals demanded that they depart following the coup on July 26th. Chilean President Gabriel Boric has said that there wouldn't be any more constitutional referendums during his term after 2 attempts to replace the country's current constitution failed. With 99.65% of ballot boxes tallied, a total of 55.76% of Chileans rejected a new text that sought to replace the current constitution, while 44.24% voted in favor of it. Many Chileans have voiced mistrust and disenchantment with the process after years of polarization and political infighting. The US presidential race is heating up. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley is catching up to former US President Donald Trump in the polls. Haley has pulled 4 points of front-runner Trump in primary polls in New Hampshire. According to American research group poll, which had asked voters whom they preferred in the New Hampshire primary, Haley earned 29% support as compared to Trump, who received 33%. To break it down, this means a gap between Haley and Trump of about 4%. Haley's strong showing in the American Research Group survey comes a day after a poll from the St. Aslan College poll. It found Haley had doubled her support in the state since September, and as a result, cementing her as a clear alternative choice to Trump for conservative voters. Republican presidential candidate VI Ramaswami pledged to pardon all peaceful protesters that took part in the events of January 6th attack on the US Capitol in 2021. At the Turning Point Action Conference, Ramaswamy said that the attack was not just an intelligence failure, but an intentional intelligence failure. According to a poll and analysis website, Ramaswamy has the support of 4% of Republican primary voters, while Trump is the lead with roughly 63% support. In yet another incident of gun violence in the United States, one person has been killed and several others injured after a man fired shots inside a mall in Florida City. The shooting broke out in the common area of the Paddock Mall on Saturday afternoon, and according to the city's police department, the man who was killed in the shooting is believed to be the intended target. Several other mall patrons also suffered injuries during the shooting, with one person reportedly being shot in the leg. The gunman is believed to have fled the scene. Police also said that they recovered a gun that they believe the shooter had used. This comes as gun-related deaths are approaching 42,000 in the United States this year, as per data from the Gun Violence Archive. Venezuelan migrants crossing through the northern Mexican state of Coahuila have alleged that Mexican authorities have been harassing them. Various migrants in the border town recalled police, immigration officers and army asking for money and physically harassing them. On the other side of the Rio Grande River, which serves as a natural border, migrants waited behind barbed wires for US Border Patrol agents to process them. Mexican president has said that his government would reinforce measures to contain the record flow of migration. A retired police officer has been shot dead by terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir's Baramulla district. According to the police, the incident happened as retired senior superintendent of police Mohammad Shafi was praying in a mosque. Terrorists reportedly opened fire at Shafi. He later succumbed to injuries after the incident. The Jammu and Kashmir police had cordoned off the area and launched an investigation into the case. Meanwhile, a state police inspector suffered severe injuries last month when terrorists opened fire on him close to Srinagar's Idgah Mosque. Pakistan's Supreme Court office has returned an appeal seeking to set aside the 3-year conviction of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. This is regarding the Toshakhana corruption case. The Toshakhana case is based on the allegations that the former premier violated Toshakhana, also known as the state repository rules. The Registrar's Office returned the appeal with observations that the petition was suffering from several deficiencies, like the concise statement. The petition should also contain questions requiring consideration and decision by the Supreme Court. Relevant facts, events and documents in the case showing a breach of legal rights. Besides, the petitioner has not informed the respondents by issuing notices to them about the filing of the petition. A draft online gaming rules are creating a storm in China, but the regulator has defended them. It says that the rules will promote healthy development of the gaming industry. In damage control mode, the government has said that it would improve the rules after earnestly studying public views. The administration is seeking public comment on the rules by January 22nd next year. This comes a day after China proposed new rules to curb spending and time on video games. Stocks of Tencent Holdings, NetEase and other gaming companies fell after the draft rules were released. Remember, China is the world's biggest games market. Over to some news from the world of business. As we head into 2024, all eyes remain on central banks and how soon will they shift to interest rate cuts. But the latest Reserve Bank of India's meeting minutes show policymakers favor better grip over inflation. India's rate setters intend to be cautious as fluctuating food prices added uncertainty to the country's overall inflation trajectory. They do not want to mislead investors by altering their policy position just yet. Clearly, that dashed any slip hopes for rate cuts anytime soon. The 6-member Monetary Policy Committee, which is also known as the MPC of the RBI, unanimously decided to keep rates on hold for the 5th consecutive review. The most important announcement was that rates will remain elevated for an extended period. Elon Musk's social media platform X continues to be in legal soup. Now, a federal judge has ruled that X violated contracts by failing to pay millions of dollars in bonuses. The former senior director of compensation sued X in June, claiming breach of contract. Now, his suit alleged that before and after Musk sought the social media platform last year, it promised employees 50% of their 2022 target bonuses but never made those payments. U.S. District Judge Vince Chabria ruled that Shobenga plausibly stated a breach of contract claim under California law. But X's lawyers argued that the Texas law should govern the case. The judge ruled that California law governed the case and dismissed the company's arguments. After Angola's exit from the OPEC grouping last week, Iraq, Nigeria and the Republic of Congo reaffirmed their support for the Organization of Oil Producers. The new commitment answers several questions raised after Angola's decision to quit the OPEC group. Following a disagreement over its production quota, Angola withdrew from the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries on Thursday. Now, this brought the group's membership down to 12 countries and raised questions about its continued unity. OPEC and its partners want to support oil prices, which have fallen about 20% in the last 3 months. Now, their plan is to continue with production cuts. Luana's departure was mostly seen by analysts as an exceptional incident.